Episode 4.
Hey guys, be sure to go to tell.fish to sign up for our email newsletter. You will get the inside scoop on new guests and contests before everyone else. We can't wait to welcome you aboard.
Welcome to the Telltale Fisherman Podcast, where avid anglers share the story of their best fishing day ever to inspire yours. Now it's time for another epic adventure. So here's your host, John Woodson.
All right, welcome to the show. Today we have a very special guest. His name is Nicky Azzara. Nicky, welcome.
Thank you.
Nicky is a special guest because he is a good friend of the family, and we actually just got back from a fishing trip ourselves before recording this interview. You want to tell them what we were doing today, Nicky?
Today we were bow fishing out on the St. John's, and we caught a few good sized tilapia.
Yes, that's a new sport my son Justin and his friends like Nicky and some others have gotten into recently, and hopefully sometime soon here we'll be able to bring a good bow fishing story. But not today. Nicky has an epic fishing story, but it actually doesn't have to do with bow fishing. Well, Nicky, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, so I've been fishing for basically my entire life, but I really got into bass fishing probably about a year or two ago. And I live on a golf course, so I have access to a lot of ponds. I have a golf cart that I can move around in. And this golf course, when I first started fishing, it was just loaded. Like, you would go every weekend, catch a 6 or 7 pound bass. I've caught 2 fish over 10 pounds out of this one pond, and my biggest being an 11.
Wow.
So that was great. Just throwing lipless crankbaits, out in the deep. That was the best. It was the best bite we could find out of there. And then they kind of died off, so I tried to branch out a little bit. Now I can drive, so I have a bigger area that I can fish in.
Mm-hmm.
And up until recently, I was strictly a bank angler. And now I found a boat on Craigslist, and I went and got that, and I've been loving it. I've been out on Lake Pickett with the Woodsons for a few times, and we caught a few fish. And then the guy who sold me the boat promised that we would go out on Lake Kissimmee because he lived down there and he knows the lakes.
Before we get to your story, tell me a little bit about how you like to fish. You said you caught some of your biggest fish on lipless crankbaits.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite lure to use, or?
Up until recently, I would have said yes, because I'm just a power angler. I don't like fishing slow.
Mm-hmm.
I just like throwing it out, cranking, a lot of casts, covering a lot of water. But recently I've been throwing a lot of swim baits and jigs and shaky heads because the bite's been a little tough this season right now. In the colder water. Some of the ponds have cleared out, like crystal clear, where you could see like 10 feet down. So I've been slowing it down, downsizing my line diameter, and it's been doing pretty well. I've been getting a few decent bites.
Now we should mention this is being recorded in February.
Yeah.
So the water's quote unquote cold for Florida.
Yeah.
Our water's about 64, 65 degrees right now.
The bass are a little lethargic, so you gotta downsize your baits a little bit to get those bites. But
Right. And I know my son has keyed you into a little different bait here recently. Yeah. Talk about that.
He has introduced me to the weightless fluke, specifically the golden one with the red flakes. You just cast it out and basically let it sit. Every once in a while, I'll give it a few twitches, and those bass slam it.
Right. Now, is bass fishing your favorite type of fishing?
It is. I do enjoy like every type of fishing, but bass fishing always seems to be the one thing that I keep coming back to.
Mm-hmm. And well, what are some other types of fishing you've done?
I used to do a lot of inshore saltwater, like for redfish and trout and flounder and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I always loved fishing off the beach for whiting and anything that'll bite, really.
Right.
And then I've basically done every type of fishing there is. I love bow fishing with you guys. I've done spear fishing in the Keys. That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been deep sea, so that's something that I'm looking forward to in the future. But,
really? So what is the next fish on your list that you think you might
The next fish on my list is definitely a peacock bass.
A peacock bass.
Yeah, I want to take a road trip down to Miami and a little southern Florida and see if I can get my hands on a peacock bass. What else do I want? A snakehead. and maybe mine cichlid.
Right. And just so for everybody's reference, so Nicky lives here in the Orlando area where we have what type of bass?
Largemouth bass and bluegill. We got brim, a lot of different. We got some crappie mixed in here.
But we don't have up in the middle of Florida here. We don't have any of the South American bass, the peacocks, which have been introduced down in South Florida. So yes, that one's on my list too. They look pretty fun. And then the other thing we don't have is smallmouth bass.
Yes.
Now, have you ever been smallmouth fishing? Have you ever caught one?
I have never caught a smallmouth bass, but I have some cousins who live up north, and we have a family reunion up there every year. So next year I might try and talk my dad into just doing a big road trip and bringing the boat out there.
There you go.
Yeah. So.
Yes. Well, I've been up to Canada, and we were catching mostly pike, but we did catch one or two smallmouth bass, and that's something I would like to be able to get back to at some point.
Yeah, my cousins live in Pennsylvania, so it's not as many pike, but mostly large and smallmouth bass.
Right.
And my cousin has actually seen the success I've been having down here, and we've been talking back and forth, and he's actually gotten into bass fishing up there as well. In the past few months, yeah.
Have you been sharing notes on tips and techniques and lures and stuff?
I've sent him a few lures. He sent me a few lures. It's been a great experience with him.
Awesome.
Let's take a quick break, and when we get back, Nicky is going to share his epic bass fishing tournament experience with us. Stay tuned. If you ever go fishing by yourself, it adds a little bit extra challenge to get the boat on and off the trailer. A boat launch cord makes launching much easier, so you can get on the water quicker and without damaging your boat. Go to tell.fish/gear in your web browser and check out the boat launch cord that we like the best. But remember, it works a lot better if you attach it to your trailer before you back the boat in the water. All right, now back to our interview with Nicky Azzara.
Well, we know a little bit now about your fishing background, and at such a young age, you just got your driver's license and are driving now, right?
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of experience in a short amount of time so far. You had a pretty cool experience, and this one was just last weekend, right?
Yeah.
So this follows on the heels of you getting your boat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what happened?
The guy who sold me the boat, we've been texting back and forth forever, and he said, "Hey, there's a tournament in Lake Kissimmee this weekend. You want to go fish it with me?" Mm-hmm. And of course I wanted to go fish it. So we drove down there early in the morning. It's cold, rainy. There's only like 35, 40 boats in a tournament that usually has 70.
So this is a club tournament?
Yeah, it's a Kissimmee Bass Association or something. Kissimmee Bass Series, I think it's called.
So tell me a little bit about Kissimmee. Some people may have heard about it, but that chain of lakes is pretty special, right?
Oh, yeah. So actually, it's also connected to Okeechobee, Lake Toho, and also this big Lake Kissimmee. So we were at the southernmost end of Lake Kissimmee, and we were just, it was kind of weird that day because it was right in the middle of a cold front, and the bass couldn't really decide what they wanted to do. So we started up fishing shallow. We caught one on a weed line, just burning swim baits. And then they weren't really biting in there, so we moved back a little bit out into a pre-spawn staging flat, and we just crushed them out there.
So how deep a water was that?
Probably about 45 feet. It wasn't very deep, but it was in just scattered lily pads and Kissimmee grass. Okay,
and so no beds or anything. You weren't catching fish on the beds.
We weren't catching fish on beds. They weren't that shallow yet. But this area that we're fishing was 2 football fields wide of just scattered lily pads. And Kissimmee
so
grass.
it's a big wide flat. And did you just kind of zigzag back?
Yeah, we just zigzag back and forth. There's a few thicker mats in the middle that we would throw around. We'd flip into it a little bit. Didn't get any bites flipping, but the second fish I caught that day was right on the edge of a mat, and my friend, he flipped his swim bait out and was reeling in and just got smacked by a giant, and he set the hook and just missed it. So I flipped mine in right after him and just set the hook on this 8-pounder.
8-pounder.
8-pound bass.
And this is your first tournament, right? So first tournament, and what's the first fish you catch?
The first fish was probably about a 3.5 pounder.
3.5.
It was a pretty good slot filler for the bag.
Heck yeah. And so, next fish, that's the 8 pounder?
The next fish was the kicker fish for our whole tournament. We caught an 8 pounder.
Wow. And then, so what happened after that?
We kind of freaked out a little bit, threw it in the live well. And then we just stuck to our pattern. We threw the swim baits. We had a little underspin hook, which is just the normal belly weighted hook for a swim bait, but it has this little swivel and a spinner blade right on the bottom, just hanging under. So we would cast it into the weed line, and just slow roll it, and that was the big bite of the day.
So they weren't totally lethargic.
Yeah,
they were active enough to hit a swim bait.
Yeah,
but you had to kind of roll it slow, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we only got 6 bites that day, but we only needed 5. So,
right. Yeah. So and why do you, just for those who don't know how the tournament works, why do you say you only needed 5?
So for the tournaments, you only weigh your biggest 5 fish, and so I caught 4 out of the 5 fish actually, and then my partner caught 2, and he culled one of them. So
wow.
The smallest fish we caught that day was just about 2.5 pounds, and we had a 19.37 pound bag.
And so, what was the end result of that bag?
I came in 5th place, and I actually won a little bit of money off of it that day. And right now, since it was the first tournament in the series, I sit in 5th place in the entire series.
You can't just retire now, right? And
I can't. I mean, there's one every last Sunday of every month. So I'm going to try and get up there next month and see what I can do again.
And are they all team tournaments?
Yeah, they're all team tournaments, at least in the series that I'm fishing in, yeah.
Right. So do you think you have the bug for tournament fishing now?
Oh, yeah, it's so much fun.
And did you find it was hard to, focus and keep grinding all day, or did the time just go by like
It just went by, and like...
snap of the fingers, huh?
My friend, he's fished a lot of tournaments over the years, and like he couldn't believe how just like calm I was. like he thought I would be like flipping out over everything, like intense, like shaking, and it just felt like fishing, like the kind of fishing I wanted to do. Right. And it was just so much fun.
So your one tournament experience now, you got one under your belt, but do you think you've maybe stumbled onto any keys for success of how, what it is it takes to be successful at fishing like that?
Yeah, I think you just need to be open-minded and don't stay with one spot unless you really have faith in it. Like the spot we stayed in, he's fished there before and pulled out some true giants, like 10 plus pound fish out of that. And actually the biggest fish of the tournament was a 10.3.
So not much bigger than yours.
Yeah. There was like a 10.3 and like a 9.4 and then another 8.5 or something like that. And then mine was like 7.95. So it was like 0.5 under a Florida trophy fish. And that would have given me a $100 gift card to Bass Pro Shops.
Oh, so, how cool is that? Well, then you got to go back now.
Yeah. If I would have stuck a split shot weight in its mouth, I would have had $100 in my pocket.
Well, you're gonna have to go grind it out, but I have no doubt that you're gonna get a big one in a tournament. I know you've already got some big ones, just fishing in private ponds and things. So excellent. Well, I have a feeling it won't be too terribly much longer before we may be talking to you again with an even more epic day than that. But a big bag of fish on your first ever bass tournament and coming in 5th place. That's pretty epic.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Awesome. Well, Nicky, thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you very much.
Do you have an epic fishing story to tell? We want to hear it. Go to tell.fish/guest in your browser and sign up to become a fishing legend today.
This has been the Telltale Fisherman Podcast. Thanks for sharing another great tale with us. Be sure to check out the show notes page for more info on today's show and the gear we talked about. Keep those lines tight, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Telltale Fisherman Podcast.